My name is Sophia Miller. I grew up in a small coastal town in California. A quiet house, ocean breeze, Sunday dinners. Everything looked perfect from the outside. But what you see on the surface doesn't always tell the truth underneath. I was always the quiet one, the one who followed the rules, the one who made my parents proud by studying hard and never asking for much. And for years I believed love meant sacrifice. Until I learned that in my family, love meant convenience. Morning light on a kitchen table covered with toast and coffee mugs. The day I got my acceptance letter from Stanford, I thought everything was finally falling into place. I'd spent years dreaming of walking through those gates, finally leaving behind the shadows of my sister Vanessa, the family's golden girl. Vanessa was beautiful, confident and engaged to Blake Turner, a man my parents adored. Their world revolved around her job, her fiancé, her perfect wedding plans. So when I screamed with joy, waving that letter in the air, I expected hugs. I expected tears. But what I got instead was silence. Mom looked at Dad. Dad looked at Vanessa. And then they smiled. Polite, distant, uncomfortable. Dad said, "That's great, Soph. Really proud of you." Vanessa barely looked up from her phone. "Stanford? Nice. Anyway, Mom, can you call the florist today?" That moment, I laughed it off. Because that's what I always did. I convinced myself they were just busy. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. 2 weeks later, the letters from Stanford came again. Fee structure, housing information, scholarship forms. I was so excited I could barely breathe. I opened my college fund account, the one my parents said they'd been saving for me since I was a kid. Birthdays, holidays, my summer job savings, all there, I thought, except it wasn't. The account showed a balance of $241.67. I refreshed. Again and again, same number, $241.67. My throat went dry. I walked downstairs, laptop shaking in my hands. Mom, Dad, they were in the living room, flipping through wedding magazines. Candles lit, soft jazz playing, like nothing in the world could touch them. I held out the screen. "The college fund, it's gone. All of it." Mom froze. Dad sighed. Then, without even looking at me, he said, "We used that money for Vanessa's wedding. You'll understand when you're older." I was 18, old enough to be robbed blind by my own family. My voice cracked. That was my future. "My college!" Mom's reply sliced through the room. "Honey, it's all the same family. Vanessa's wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event. We'll figure your college out later." They turned back to their magazines, as if my dreams were just background noise. That night, I didn't cry. I just sat on the porch swing, watching the moonlight reflect on the ocean, and somewhere inside me, something broke. For days, I went through the motions. I smiled at breakfast. I helped Vanessa with invitations. I watched her try on dresses that my money paid for. But behind every smile, I was planning. I kept every email, every receipt, every proof of what they'd done. Because betrayal hurts, but evidence, that's power. Time passes. The wedding grows near. Decorations, laughter, dresses, music. By the time the wedding week arrived, I had already decided how I was going to end it. The venue was a luxury beach resort in Malibu. White sands, fairy lights, string quartets, all of it. Dad kept bragging, "It's going to be the most beautiful wedding this town's ever seen." I packed my bag quietly. They didn't even notice I was coming along. "Of course you're invited," Mom said dismissively. "Just make sure you help Vanessa with her makeup and, stay out of the way when guests arrive. Stay out of the way." That's what I was best at. Until now. The resort was breathtaking. The ocean stretched endlessly, and the golden sunset bathed everything in warmth that felt undeserved. Vanessa twirled around in her designer robe. "Can you believe it, Soph? I'm finally getting my dream wedding," I smiled faintly. "I can believe it," I said, because I had paid for it. That night, while everyone celebrated downstairs, I walked through the empty ballroom where the ceremony would take place. Rows of golden chairs, fresh white roses, and a giant projector set up for a family montage. Photos, memories, videos, a tribute to their perfect love story. That was my opening. I copied my file onto a flash drive, a folder titled Vanessa Wedding, but inside it was something else. Every screenshot, every transfer, every lie, even the clip from Mom's voicemail saying later never came. The next morning was chaos. Bridesmaids running, champagne popping, laughter echoing through the halls. But through it all I was calm, almost peaceful. At noon the ceremony began. Vanessa walked down the aisle glowing. Dad held her hand proudly. Mom wiped fake tears of joy. I stood at the edge, camera in hand, pretending to film. When the vows began, I slipped behind the stage to the laptop connected to the projector. I replaced their family montage with my file. And then I waited. Priest, you may now exchange your vows. Vanessa smiled at Blake. I vow to always be honest with you. She began. The projector blinked to life. The lights dimmed. Everyone turned. Smiles froze. And my voice filled the room. Hi, Mom. Hi. Dad, I hope you're proud of this day. Because you bought it with my future. Gasps. The video showed their online transfers, their emails. The statement titled, College Savings Account, $0.00. Then Mom's voicemail played. We'll take care of Sophia later, guests whisper. Vanessa's face pale. The room was silent except for the crashing waves outside. Vanessa whispered. I turned slowly, meeting her eyes. Nothing you didn't do first. Sophia walks out of the hall as chaos erupts behind her. Outside, the sunlight hit the ocean like glass. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Sometimes revenge isn't fire and rage. Sometimes it's calm. Like the tide that slowly, quietly drowns everything it touches. I didn't look back as I walked out of that wedding hall. Behind me, I could still hear Mom's voice, frantic, trembling, Dad shouting, the guests whispering, cameras flashing. Every secret they'd buried for years was now laid bare. In front of 200 people, and the whole town that once thought we were the perfect family. That evening, my phone started buzzing. Messages, calls, notifications. Someone had recorded the entire thing. My voice, the video, their faces, and by midnight, it was everywhere. Overnight, the Miller family became the town's most talked about tragedy. I didn't post a single thing. I didn't need to. The truth had already done what I never could, make them listen. The next day, I left the resort before sunrise. I didn't even pack properly, just my bag, my laptop, and the flash drive that had changed everything. As I drove away from Malibu, the sunlight broke over the horizon, and I realized I felt lighter. Not happy, not yet, but free. 1 week later, I moved into a small apartment 2 towns over. It wasn't fancy, peeling wallpaper, a view of a grocery store, but it was mine. I got a part-time job at a local cafe. The owner, Clara, was kind, quiet, and she didn't ask about my family, which was a blessing. Every day I served customers, smiled, cleaned tables. And at night, I filled out scholarship applications one after another. I thought maybe the storm had passed, but I was wrong. One afternoon I saw them again, my parents, standing outside the cafe window, looking worn out and smaller than I remembered. Mom had dark circles. Dad's hair looked grayer. They came inside slowly, like people entering a church to confess. Sophia, Dad said softly. We just want to talk. The cafe was quiet. Clara nodded toward the back room. I sat down across from them, my hand steady. Mom began to cry first. People at the club won't even look at us anymore. Vanessa's wedding, it's canceled. Blake left her after what happened. There it was, the aftermath of truth. But I didn't gloat. I just listened. We made a mistake, Dad whispered. We thought we were helping the family. We didn't realize we were destroying yours. I looked at them for a long time. Then I said quietly, You didn't destroy my future. You just taught me to build it myself. They wanted forgiveness, but forgiveness isn't something you demand. It's something you earn. And they hadn't earned it. I don't hate you, I said finally. but I can't be the daughter you used to take advantage of anymore." Mom reached for my hand. I stood up before she could touch me. "You took my trust. Now I'm taking my distance." And I walked away, again. But this time it wasn't out of pain. It was out of peace. Sophia working, studying, late nights, coffee cups, notebooks, glowing computer screen. Weeks turned into months. One day I got an email from Berkeley University, not Stanford, but still one of the best schools in California. They'd seen the viral story, and an alumni organization had offered to sponsor my tuition. When I read the message, I couldn't stop crying. Because the very thing that was supposed to ruin me had opened a door I never thought existed. The night before I moved, I drove back to my old house. Not to confront them, just to see it one last time. The porch light was still on. The same swing, creaking in the wind, but the laughter that once filled the house was gone. I stood there for a long moment, then left a small envelope in the mailbox. Inside, I wrote one line. "Thank you for teaching me what love shouldn't look like." And a check, half of my first scholarship deposit. Not because I owed them, but because I wanted to end it my way. I walked across the Berkeley campus, a coffee in one hand, my notebook in the other. New faces, new voices, a world that finally felt like it was mine. Every now and then, someone would recognize me. "You're the girl from that wedding video, right?" I'd just smile and say, "I'm the girl who kept going." Then one evening, after class, I got a message. Unknown number. It was Vanessa. "Sophia, I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry. You were right. They used us both." I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "I know, but it's time to move on, Vanessa, for both of us." For the first time, her typing bubble disappeared, and it stayed gone. Maybe that was closure. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just quiet understanding. Sophia walking near the beach at sunset, smiling softly. They took my college fund to buy my sister a wedding. But what they didn't realize was that they gave me something more valuable, a reason to start living for myself. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to see what you were meant to find.